Good morning, everybody, and a happy Monday morning to you. I hope your weekend is going well, or that it went well since it's over. A big thank you to Kai Lear on Twitter for this picture above, and you will understand why I'm using that picture later on in the video. Also, a big thank you to the Sidleys in case you didn't see me on Twitter or you didn't see my live. Look at the gorgeous flowers they sent me. Beautiful. All right, we have a lot to cover, so let's jump in, shall we? Let's go. We're going to start off with Princess Anne. She has been busy. First of all, on Saturday, July 25th, she arrived to mark the start of the Rolex Fastnet race, which is held off the coast of the Isle of Wight. She was there with her fabulous husband, Vice Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence, and Island Representative Lord Lieutenant Susie Sheldon. This race has been sponsored by the Swiss watchmaker Rolex since 2001. For those of you who haven't heard of it, this race is a biennial offshore yacht race that's organized by the Royal Ocean Racing Club of the United Kingdom with support from the Royal Yacht Squadron and the city of Cherbourg, I believe is how you say it, in France. The race is named after Fastnet Rock, which is located off the southern coast of Ireland, which the course surrounds. That's interesting. So they got up to the upper balcony. There were some cannon blasts, which signify the start of the race. And then Princess Anne got to watch from the balcony. The Admiral's Cup, which is what they were racing for, was reintroduced to mark 100 years of event organizers. And the iconic Red Arrows did a fly pass. Love it. Next up, still sticking with Anne, this took place actually a couple of weeks ago on June 25th, but it just came out. Princess Anne held a private reception at St. James Palace. The reception was for Opportunity International UK, of which Princess Anne is the patron and has been for the last 30 years. Opportunity International, FYI, started in 1971 and it operates now across 30 countries and is guided by three pillars: agriculture, education, and micro-enterprise. Still sticking with Anne, on July 15th, she opened the 66th London International Youth Science Forum. It lasts for 15 days and there's 500 students aged 16 to 21 from 80 countries. They're trying to pursue their potential in STEM. I love that. All right, let's move on. Next up, we're still sticking with Princess Anne. On July 25th, she went to, and again, I hope I say this right, Citizens Advice Rotherham and District. They were celebrating 60 years, and Princess Anne showed up to help them celebrate, and it ended when she unveiled a plaque. Love it. Let's move on finally to Edward, the Duke of Edinburgh. He was visiting, I hope I say this right, the Oosterschelde, which is a three-masted schooner from the Netherlands. It was built in 1918, and it is one of the largest restored Dutch freight ships and the only remaining Dutch three-masted topsail schooner. She's the last of her kind. Anyway, she is docked at Tower Bridge in London because they just completed the Darwin 200 global voyage. Let's move on now to the Duke of Gloucester, who, by the way, is the joint president of the Cancer Research UK. He went to visit the Clinical Biomanufacturing Facility and the Institute of Development and Regenerative Medicine at the University of Oxford. This took place on July 24th. I think he looks fabulous for his age. Also on July 21st, a few days before that, as patron of the Society of Antiquities of London, officially opened the Magna Carta exhibition at Burlington House in Piccadilly, London. And finally, I believe it was the 25th, the Duke of Gloucester visited the Didcot Railway Centre to meet volunteers that are working around the site on engine restoration and the Hayford Station building. He got to see a locomotive boiler being lifted, and he got to see a lot of the inner workings. He reminds me a lot of Prince Edward. He just goes about his work very quietly, no fanfare, no muss. Let's continue. All right, next up, this is really cool. The King has launched his own brand of beard grooming products. There's oils, washes, and balms that have been infused with wild bog myrtle, which is hand foraged from the grounds of the Balmoral estate. The oil is 25 pounds. The beard wash is 32 pounds. Yes, it's a little pricey, but let me explain why. The plant is known as a bug repellent. They take the leaves and the twigs, they crush them, they rub them on the skin, and it releases a fragrant oil that acts as a natural insect repellent. And on Balmoral, it's saying that the shrub has long been valued in the Highland tradition for skin-soothing botanical care. That is amazing. I love that. There's two scents, the Laird and the Chieftain. Isn't that Sticking with King Charles, on July 16th, the King's outgoing Gurkha orderly officers were presented their Royal Victorian Order medals from King Charles in the Green Drawing Room at Windsor Castle. And next up, King Charles sent a message to the Maldives on the 60th anniversary of their independence. Let's move on now to Queen Camilla. She arrived by helicopter, dressed in white, looking gorgeous, for the King George Racing Weekend at Ascot. So she arrived on July 26th. Now, I have to tell you, King Charles was not there. Everybody was going on about the fact that King Charles was not there, but they've been very busy, and it could be that Charles was busy having one of his, cancer treatments, and that's why he wasn't there. It's possible. But anyway, Camilla was there, and the royal standard was flying, and that's the most important thing. I believe we've seen this outfit before. I can't place it right now, but I think it had a different hat. Same dress, different hat. Anyway, she was seen talking with her racing manager, John Warren. She had other friends around her. They were talking, they were laughing, they were having a good time. She watched the races, and of course, after the race, it was time for her to hand out the trophies, as usual, I believe. And it was the King George VI and the Queen Elizabeth Stakes trophies that she handed out. Let's move on now to our Harry Meghan stuff. They've had a massive plummet in popularity. But what you learn, according to these articles, is that when you've been in the game a while, you learn that everything has a shelf life or a sell-by date, where you once were fresh and appealing and now you're stale, and in some cases, rotten and stinking, which is how Harry and Meghan have ended up. They're not the first public celebrities that people have become bored of, but, that's what's happened. The two of them got preachy and high-handed and told people what was good for them, what they should do. And let's face it, nobody wants that. We're bored. Their star is falling fast. It has imploded. What's really happened here is Netflix and Spotify seized on their short-term notoriety, knowing it wasn't going to be long-term. They're not unhappy with, how things turned out. They got their initial hits. They produced a very talked-about show, even though it wasn't a top show, which we're going to discuss in a minute. And now everything else is just sucking. You guys may not know this, but their first docuseries, Harry and Meghan, a story, or whatever they named it, it actually came in below My Little Pony and The Crown. I'm not kidding. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Harry and Meghan series, which was released in December of 2022, had an audience of 1.3 million from January to June. It ranked 1,764 out of more than 7,500 shows on Netflix. Remember, that's the show where they claimed Nottingham Cottage was too small, even though William, Catherine, and baby George lived in there. She talked about taking care of her grandmother, which Samantha Markle said was a lie. She used to show up to visit her grandmother, but she didn't take care of her grandmother. There's a whole host of allegations, how she's a hugger, and she didn't realize that the royal family's not a hugger. Just a bunch of lies. In the meantime, it's being said that Meghan is absolutely going to show up to the Invictus Games in the UK, and that she needs it for good PR, which she obviously needs. Personally, I think if she shows up, that's going to scuttle anybody from the royal family showing up. And she needs some good PR, because people are talking about the fact that she's out of touch. She's the joke of the month. Her own podcast is different, and it shows she feels that anybody who isn't a fan is questioning her podcasting skills, and they should be a fan. Everybody should love her. It really was cringe, the things she said. And besides the things that Meghan says things that Harry says. He broke all the rules. He knew he wasn't supposed to say things. He went beyond and said things that should never have been said, and threw a bunch of non-truths in there as well. So they're saying if you're going to walk the tightrope of truth, if you fall off, you're going to get battered and bruised. You have to take your lumps. Now, of course, if there is a reconciliation, it's being said that Princess Anne is probably not going to forgive Harry, because to her, loyalty is paramount to everything. And she feels Harry has been extremely disloyal to his father, his brother, and the monarchy, which of course she has. And so Harry should not expect Anne to just take him back. Now, I can totally agree with that one. You guys know I don't always have the right words, the things I want to say. Well, Talk TV did. They had a meeting of minds on TV. Now, this thing went on for like 9 minutes. I cut it down to about 1.5 minutes. Just the most important things, but really important and right on, spot on. So listen to this.
While Meghan Markle blinds us with wine and her other elusive wares that are always sold out, the grim spectre of financial reality is casting a dark cloud over the big-spending Sussex's sunny paradise. A gathering storm that could point to marital trouble ahead. First rule of relationships: cash-strapped couples struggle to stay together. Watch this space. With forlorn Harry travelling the globe alone in search of the lost popularity he's desperate to regain, money-mad Meghan is now being seen as the family breadwinner. OK, fine. But is the difficult Duchess bringing in even nearly enough bread? Especially now that exasperated TV bosses have sensationally pulled the plug on the $100 million Netflix deal that promised so much but produced so little. The Duke and Duchess's hopes of renewing their lucrative contract in September are officially dead after their 2 most recent shows turned into toweringly terrible TV turkeys. Harry's tawdry horse-based docusoap Polo was an unwatchable disaster, plummeting to a catastrophic 3,436 in the Netflix charts. Meanwhile, Ms Markle's excruciatingly old-fashioned home cooking drivel with Love Meghan failed to make the top 300, limping in at a humiliating 383rd. Even ancient episodes of Ms Markle's long-ago legal drama Suits fared considerably better. In showbiz terms, the Sussexes are a pair of past-it mega-flops. Make no mistake, the less-than-dynamic duo have tanked in Hollywood and fallen from grace on an epic scale. After they stopped pouring buckets of venom all over King Charles and his family, it soon transpired they had nothing of interest left to offer. The Oprah interview branding the British royals racists, the nasty Netflix series dismissing bemused Brits as slave drivers, and Harry's horrible book Spare were their commercial high points. But their short-term success story soon dissolved into long-term failure. When they don't dish out the spite, they don't do the business. And here's the problem. The preposterous pair's rancid reserves of mean-minded malice have run out, and so have the ill-gotten gains they generated, an unsavoury source of income that has dramatically dried up. Now all they have to look forward to is the mysterious commercial venture the unworldly prince says he's set to launch next spring. What will it be? With the dim Duke's dubious track record for dazzling brilliance, I think it's probably wise that we manage our expectations. You know, not get too excited. Temper our emotions. Let's hope it's not a hair care product, because apart from a few remaining ginger strands clinging on for all they're worth, he hasn't got any hair. Oh well, but back to Netflix, where one executive sighed this deal is dead. Meghan had everything going for her: name, platform, press, but the numbers were dismal. Now that the novelty of the Megxit adventure has withered and died, along with the opportunities it brought, the Sussexes are at the crossroads. What happens next? Watch this space.
I mean, this is just completely and utterly humiliating. I don't know if they will struggle financially.
I think they will.
They might not be able to build another pool. I mean, hopefully Meghan can...
they haven't got any money, you know
flog
that.
enough jam, maybe 5 people will buy it and that will help them pay the bills. But I mean, I feel like this is just a perfect example of karma. They got their karma for sticking 2 fingers up to the royal family, trying to throw their reputation under the bus. And I feel like everything they do now, they're desperately trying to get all these new deals, set up these new businesses. It just reeks of desperation, which is just so repulsive. And I know that they did well on the one series that they put out with Netflix, but I don't think that's because anyone really liked them. People just thought, oh, what's this hilarious...
Because they've been nasty.
Yeah, what's this hilarious garbage that they put out? Let me take a look for an episode or 2. But then people have quite rightly tuned out, because you've got to actually like Meghan Markle to sit there and watch her, say, put edible flowers on top of pasta for 10 hours plus. I mean, who wants to do that?
I mean, but you've got to like Meghan. Does anyone out there? No, I didn't think so.
Big thank you to Jilly on Twitter next up for pointing out that, let's not forget, Harry had a really interesting idea for interviewing people like Putin to talk about their childhood trauma. Get it? That's where the front picture came from. Let's move on. And a big thank you to Royally Sage for finding this. You know, I've said before, they're looking for deals from Disney and Hulu, and she wasted her time with Paramount. It was just sold. Now, as far as Netflix goes, it didn't take long. We knew Harry and Meghan were going to try to change the narrative. So now they're coming out to say that they've come to a new agreement with Netflix, that they're being treated like the, quote, biggest stars that are associated with Netflix, and that they now have a first look deal, which means the company will have the chance to snap up any future projects that the couple produce ahead of rival streaming platforms. Now, this is something that a lot of channels offer, but Netflix doesn't want to lose their relationship with the pair. And even though some of their shows fail to ignite the interest they thought, there's still box office when it comes to publicity. And then they go on to say that the Harry and Meghan docuseries remains the streaming service's biggest success. I told you guys earlier where it ranked. That was not a success. Let me tell you how fake some of this stuff is. They're saying that Harry and Meghan are locked in negotiations for the second contract, and that they're going to air the second season of With Love, Meghan under the new agreement. However, that was already in the contract, the first contract. So that's absolutely not true. The source goes on to say, if you're in the top third of Netflix, you're getting another deal. Here's what's going to happen. Harry and Meghan are going to come up with their ridiculous, stupid stuff. And Netflix is probably going to turn it down, and then they're going to try to market it other places, and it's going to get turned down. But of course, the articles are saying that Netflix is a listed company, so they can't say or confirm anything officially, but the deal isn't dead because they're an equal partner and as ever. So therefore, they can't drop Meghan. It serves them to promote her and her lifestyle brand. It would be like punching yourself in the face. No, I don't think that's the case. I got to be honest. I think it's over. All right, guys, you know what to do. Hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell for all notifications. Then go down into the description box where you'll find the link to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, a link to my second channel, a link to my father's book, which is still up for sale on Amazon, and a link to my Amazon wish list, as well as a physical address. For those of you who have donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.